What if we thought about post-encounter engagement that are a little bit more dreamy, right, that are a little bit more, that felt really good. You know, they're consistent, again, with my prior communications and experiences, but they're not just all marketing. Like, they're equally functional and purposeful from a clinical perspective. So it's some things like discharge instructions, or it's, you know, those critical pieces of information you need to know about the medication that you're on, you know, that they're literally there. They're just wrapped and branded and put in a package that, again, is a little bit more consistent. How about if they were in a situation where they were actually very specific to the next steps that the provider maybe scratched on a piece of paper or had the EHR generate as well? What if they were specific to your journey and they were cognizant of the prior journey that you took beforehand? Oh, we already know that you watched that video. We already know that you attended that class, so it's not going to be duplicative to the fact that you've already done that, right? And obviously being complementary to the, you know, to the personal journey that you were on or that your family member was on. And this is like, granted, some of this is a little bit utopia in nature, but when you really think about, as Gary mentioned in the very beginning of the presentation, there's so many opportunities for interactions and touch points. And in many cases, those opportunities for touch points or those touch points themselves are not clinical, right? They're reminders, they're follow-ups, they're, hey, don't forget to, hey, did you do this, right? And there's, you know, if you're triggering those things purely from a clinical point of view, you miss one side of the boat. And if you're triggering it from a purely marketing view, they don't have visibility into your specific clinical pathway. So the, you know, the answer here is how do you partner and work these things together? And this is an example, you know, another view, if you will, of that pathway that Gary showed earlier, and just look at it closely for a minute, right? And you see triggered a lab and a diagnostic reminder, right? Family experience portal suggested medications, treatment reminders, dietary nurturing emails, therapy reminders. I mean, you think about, depending on the condition, the disease, the treatment pathway, you may have more or less of these, but each one of them is an intervention or interaction that is an opportunity to just continue to promote that brand, that relationship that was started, you know, obviously much further than when the patient first entered into the clinical setting to begin with. This is a more longitudinal view that also pulls into account the sort of orange guy on the left here is really that unidentified sort of campaign-generated consumer early on who was in the marketing land referred to as a prospect, a hand raiser, a suspect of somebody we may do business with or we hope to do business with in a certain service line. And in this case, it's a cardiology example, but then their interactions through their initial referral, right, to a cardiologist who may, you know, again, have set up some further actions and next steps with that individual patient, all the way ultimately to the cardiovascular surgeon. So when you think about the journey that these patients take and your audience take and the customers take, there's a ton of opportunity to collaborate and coordinate the activities